Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we're talking about my wedding photography workflow with Imagen, spelt Imagen. You can see in the title, you probably already clicked it. You're like, what is Imagen? You're like, oh, Imagen. And now you can imagine all the time that you'll save. So today I'm going to talk through my workflow and give you some tips. And if you haven't yet heard of AI image editing, basically what it is, you load everything into Lightroom and you send it from Lightroom to the Imagen server. So it's an upload. It makes small little DNGs. It's a pretty quick upload process. And it will edit your images exactly as you would, which sounds way too good to be true. And I feel like that was a barrier at the very beginning for a lot of us, was that it seemed too good to be true. There's no way that could work. And then you try it and you're like, oh, okay, that did work. It's really, really nice. And I would say that overall, that using Imagen has been the biggest workflow upgrade that I have done to my wedding photography business since Lightroom came out, or at least when I started using it in like 2008, 2007 maybe. I don't know when it came out, maybe 2006. I didn't have a Mac, so I couldn't use Aperture. But that was the last big improvement. Prior to that, I was editing every single image individually in Photoshop and trying to maintain consistency across an entire gallery, which was just literally impossible. And then 15 years went by and I did the exact same thing in Lightroom, moving the sliders, touching the buttons. I used an editing house for a little while. I used a variety of, I hired my own editor and they burnt out after a little bit. And then I used some of the bigger agencies and it was fine, but it was damn expensive. It was more expensive, I think, looking back and actually doing the math. I was like, whoa, that's how much money I spent having my images edited. And at the time, it's like you're buying your life back. But with the addition of Imagen, the cost has come down. I don't even know. I think Lindsay said she saved $18,000 last year not using one of the editing houses and just using Imagen. So that is a pretty crazy savings. And not only that, so I would say the biggest improvement factor for me is that I'm now in control of my timeline a lot better. So I come home from a wedding, I upload that gallery to Imagen, and within 10 minutes, it comes back to me fully edited. So I can have a full wedding edited in 10 minutes from the time that I click the submit button. And that to me is just absolutely nuts. And it has improved my workflow. It has improved my quality of life, strangely enough. It's also improved from a mental standpoint. So I'm a very nervous person when it comes to backing up files, and that I don't want to wipe cards. If I have another wedding next weekend, I'm not going to wipe the cards that I shot on the previous weekend until I have a final gallery actually uploaded online. And to be able to just kind of do that and have the entire gallery done by Monday or Tuesday is incredible. So I am very, very happy to know that, yes, all the images are there. All the family photos are there. I have photos from the getting ready all the way to the end of the night. Everything is finalized. Everything is online as backup, is finalized online JPEGs. And that makes my life so much happier. So just a general shout out to Imagen. And also at any point in this, if you are interested in giving them a shot, there is a link in the show notes to a link that will give you 1,500 free edits, rather than if you just go to their website, you'll get 1,000. But if you go click through the link, you'll get 1,500 to give it a shot and to see if it is for you. 1,500 images should be good for maybe if you're shooting like a 14, 15-hour wedding day, maybe that's one wedding. But if you're shooting something like me, that's usually an 8-hour wedding day, maybe 700 total images, you'll actually get to do 2 full galleries as well. Well, now I'm going to walk you through my workflow with Imagen and the places that it benefits me. I'll also mention that if you are interested in having Imagen cull for you as well, this will be a full one-stop solution. Right now, culling is in beta, and it's actually free while it's in beta. So if you are signed up for the subscription, or you're paying pay-as-you-go customer, you get free culling while it's still in beta. So maybe hop over on that pretty quickly. If you're on the free 1,500 edit plan, you don't have access to the culling beta yet, but as soon as you become a subscriber or you start paying money, you will have access to it. So for culling, what it's going to do is it's going to go through and it's going to select the images that it thinks that you should have. And it is going to not select the ones, say for instance, during family photos, you take 15, 20 images of the same group because there's 25 people in it and you know people are going to blink and you don't want to be doing head replacements. So you take a lot of images and Imagen will select the one with everybody's eyes open and it will give you that one. So even just in the family photo section of the day, it is going to speed your workflow up a lot. The level of concentration that you now have when culling, you're not going to go through and verify that each individual person's eyes are all open in all of those photos, which does take time. You're just going to know that, okay, that's a good one. On to the next one. And that definitely is, I would say, the biggest workflow speed up that AI culling allows me to have, and I'm very, very happy for that. So you can choose whether you use Imagen for culling and editing, or if you just use it for editing. Both are valid workflow options. So say you've gone through, you've uploaded everything, you've allowed Imagen to color your images, and you've gone through and you've refined the selections that it's made, and you're ready to submit it for editing. So you have two possible pathways at this point. Pathway one, you train the system to work exactly as you would and to make the same decisions. So the way the system works is basically that you submit 3,000 of your own edited images from a Lightroom catalog if you're a wedding photographer that's only a couple of weddings. So you submit those as what you usually do, how you usually edit, and the system will learn, it will build you a profile, and the next time it sees that backlit image on a golf course, it's going to know that, hey, this is what you did last time, so we're going to do the same thing as last time in order to match that. Maybe that's an oversimplified example of how the system works, but more or less in my brain, that's how it works. It just matches what I would do in certain situations. So that is one avenue that you can go down. If that sounds overwhelming to upload 3,000 images, the easier avenue, and the one that I actually use most of the time still, is I will use one of the talent profiles. So they have a number of like pretty, I'm going to say like most of the best wedding photographers in the world. You have a profile from all of them, and you can, it's 50, 100 times better than their presets, because not only is it the preset, the look overall, but it's also going to edit exactly as they would. You can use this in a variety of ways, whether you want to go with the full creative style of one of those photographers, you can do that, or you can go for a more simple edit. So something like Susan Stripling, she has a profile called Clean and Crisp. There's also a Warm Skin Tones profile, I think it's called Warm and Creamy. Both of those give you a very good baseline edit that if you are going to add a preset on top of that you can. So it will give you the baseline edit that you need. So it'll adjust for white balances, exposures, and make everything match nice and cohesively across the entire gallery. And then I will actually make a preset that doesn't adjust anything like white balance or exposure or shadows or contrast or vibrance. It will only adjust the colors and the tone curve, and I will apply that to everything. So I know that everything is kind of that baseline edit, that everything is pretty good to go. And I'm just going to tweak the colors a little bit. And that is a much faster way, I would say, to start up with the process to make sure that it is for you, that it can match your style before going through and building your profile and sending in all those images. The other massive update that came out a month or so ago now is you can actually do profile adjustments. So say you find one of those talent profiles and you're like, I love exactly the way John Branch's profile looks on all of my images, but everything is like a half stop too bright for me. You can actually make that in a profile adjustment, or you can adjust the colors and you can actually tweak out your own preset within a profile that exists. Or if you build your own profile and it's maybe just same deal, everything's a little bit too green or too magenta, that you can make those easy tweaks that will globally take effect when Imagen is editing your images to send you back a gallery that is pretty much exactly as you would have edited. Now, the biggest thing for me, so all of this like sounds amazing and great. It's going to edit everything exactly as I would. Cool. The biggest thing, and if Imagen only offered this one single feature, I would use the system for this. Straightening. So they'll straighten your images for you. I don't know what my deal is. I shoot everything on like a 1.5% slant for some reason. All of my family photos, if I'm shooting family photos in front of a fireplace, every single image I would have to go in and manually adjust. And it is very annoying. Also, straightening images just adds another level of just professionalism. Like your images just look and feel a little bit better. And Imagen will just do this automatically. It has, I don't think it's ever screwed up a single image. It's never done something that I'm like, no, that's not how I wanted that image straightened. It's never made a single mistake with straightening. And I would use this system if this is all it did. If it only did straightening, I would use Imagen for that. Fortunately, it also does a bunch of other stuff like culling and editing and more that we'll talk about. But it is an incredibly powerful little checkbox that you just click and it works very well. You can also have Imagen crop for you as well. I've used this a little bit, but it's not something I tend to crop everything as I want it to be basically in camera, but it will go in and it will frame things how it has seen that you've done it in the past or how it believes that this image should be cropped. Another checkbox is another crazy powerful, like the checkbox is so small, it does so much. So masking is in beta right now. And what it does, it will actually, if you've experimented with it, it's an incredibly powerful tool in Lightroom where you can actually hit a single button and it will just select your couple for you but it takes a couple of seconds to run. And then you can adjust. So if you only want the couple, you only want your subject to be a little bit brighter or a little bit darker, you can adjust that. What Imagen will do is it will just do that process for you. It will build the mask for you, and it will adjust what it thinks that you would want it to look like. And it is incredibly powerful as a time-saving tool because it builds all the masks for you. So even if it just built all the masks for me, this is still a checkbox I would use. Even if it had made no adjustments, this is still something that I would be using, because it builds that mask that's going to take your computer maybe 3, 5, 8 seconds to build. And if you're spending 3 or 5 or 8 seconds on every single image, that adds up to a lot of time over gallery. The fact that you just get your gallery back in Lightroom and it has all these masks already built is amazing. And then also it does all the adjustments that you would do anyways. So an incredibly powerful tool. I run straightening and I run masking on all of my images. Now, when you're in the app, you have the ability to select what images within the Lightroom catalog you're going to be sending to Imagen to edit. And there isn't a right or wrong way for this. If you run one Lightroom catalog for an entire wedding season, that's fine. Or if you just have run one for the past 5 years, maybe consider doing yearly. But if you do catalogs for each individual wedding day, that's fine as well. But you can just search and select the folder that you want if you do have a lot of folders in your Lightroom catalog. And then you can select what images, if you've starred them, if you've or maybe already made some edits that you don't want Imagen to do anything over top of, you can select what you want to submit to Imagen servers to begin editing. When you have all those selected, you begin the process. You hit the go button, and it will actually make small DNG files of each of your images. So it's not going to be sending the entire raw file, especially if you're shooting a high megapixel camera. This would be a nightmare. It's not going to send the entire raw file to Imagen. It's going to basically build a small DNG sized version of it and send that for editing. And what that means is that it's going to be very fast for you to upload your gallery to Imagen. It's going to edit your images very quickly, and it's going to send you a download link. And that download link, you're not even downloading the full DNG photos anymore. You're downloading tiny little XMP files that download pretty much instantly. You just kind of click the download button and it's pretty much ready to go. Now, when you load up the Lightroom catalog, all your edits are just done. That's the end of the process. I usually go through and I just verify everything. I go in library mode so that it's a little bit faster. And if there is anything, so if you're using your own profile, you can actually fine tune and send in your adjustments. So if maybe some incandescent photos came back and they were a little bit too warm or maybe a little bit too cool, you can make those adjustments and you can fine tune your profile. And maybe 3 or 4 weddings after you've started using it, you're probably not going to find yourself doing any fine tunes anymore, that it's just going to know exactly what you want it to do in every situation and it's going to get it done. Maybe one helpful tip and one thing that kind of blew my mind was that if everything does come back and you're using someone else's profile and it's your first time trying Imagen with the free 1500 edits, link in the show notes below. And if you are getting everything back and it's like, oh, maybe it's a 0.3 of a stopover and you'd like everything just a little bit darker. When you go into library mode, you can actually make global adjustments. So if you're in develop, you're going to sync adjustments. If you're in library, you're going to do global adjustments. And basically what this means is that if you select, say you select all the getting ready photos so that everything was just a little too bright, that you didn't do any profile adjustments, first time using the system, you just wanted to see what it was like, go into library mode and select the images that are too bright, maybe it's all of them, and you click the exposure buttons, either the small exposure button or the bigger double arrow one, and you can adjust that entire gallery a little bit. So it all adjusts as one, rather than adjusting, if you're syncing the images, everything's going to adjust and be at 0.3 exposure or 1.0 exposure. That's going to make all the images the same. When you're in library, it will just bump everything up 0.3 of an exposure or down 0.3 of an exposure. Same with white balances as well, that you're not adjusting everything to be exactly 7,000 Kelvin, that you're adjusting everything maybe 300 Kelvin higher or lower, so it's getting warmer or it's getting cooler. And you can do those global adjustments in the library mode. So that's something that I didn't learn until like last year, and it kind of blew my mind. So that is something that will help you get up to speed with Imagen very, very quickly. After that, you just hit export and you're done. And that's it. I'm going to say that you can do this entire process. Maybe the first time will take you like 15, 20 minutes, but the second time you do it, you're probably going to be able to do the entire process faster than this podcast was. So it really does make a dramatic impact in your business from a workflow standpoint, from a mental energy standpoint, that you know that your finals are up, that you have everything, and it's a couple of days after the wedding and you got that gal. Don't deliver it yet. Spend like maybe 2-3 weeks before you actually send it to the client, because you won't need to give them some anticipation. I think it's a little bit too fresh if you deliver the entire gallery on Monday or Tuesday. Maybe send some previews. That's a nice thing to do. So send your previews, and then that's it. That's all. That's Imagen workflow. Very easy, very quick. Will really transform your entire workflow for your wedding photography business. If you have any questions, I don't know how to do that here. This is kind of a one-way podcast, but head on over. There's a link in the description or in the show notes also to go to the Imagen Facebook community as well. So if you have any questions, plug them in there and someone will get back to you. It'll probably be Scott, who works at Imagen. He'll send you a nice little video message. He's an amazing, wonderful human being. And he knows way more about Imagen than I do. And also use that link in the description to get 1,500 free edits with Imagen rather than the regular 1,000 that you would get if you just go over to their website. So link in the show notes for that. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you again next week.